You can hear me?
Yes, Bhante, we can hear.
Okay. Today we want to start the last section of Anapannasati, mindfulness meditation. You can see on the screen 7 factors of enlightenment. This is the Pali. I'm not going to recite Pali very often, but in this case, for you to have full confidence in what you hear, is the Buddha's explanation in Pali. Katam bhavita ca bhikkhave chattaro satipatthana katam bahuli kata satta vajjange paripuranti. Yasmin samaye bhikkhu bhikkhave bhikkhu kaya kayanupassi virti atapi sampajano satima vinaya loke abhijjato manasang upattitasya satin tasmin samaye upattitasya tasmin samaye sati hoti asammutha yasmin samaye bhikkhave bhikkhu upattita sati hoti asammutha tasmin sati sampajjango tasmin samaye bhikkhave bhikkhu arado hoti. Excuse me. Satisambhujjangam tasmin same bhikkhu bhaveti. Satsambhujjango tasmin sampe bhikkhu bhavani bhavana paripuram gacchati. Okay. That is bhikkhus. You can see on the screen. On whatever occasion a bhikkhu abides contemplating the body as a body, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world, on that occasion, unremitting mindfulness is established in him. On whatever occasion unremitting mindfulness is established in a bhikkhu, on that occasion, the mindfulness enlightenment factor is aroused in him, and he develops it, and by development it comes to fulfillment in him. I believe you all have heard me say full screen. Heard me say many times that anytime we practice mindfulness, it goes to the mindfulness factor of enlightenment basket. So that mindfulness factor increases. In Anapannasati Sutta, it simply says one who goes to a forest or and sit in cross-legged position and breathe in and breathe out, and be mindful of long inhaling as long inhaling, long exhaling as long exhaling, and so forth. But this sentence, contemplating the body as body, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. This section, this phrase, you find only in Satipatthana, not Anapannasati. So you can see the relationship, mindfulness of breathing and mindfulness, four foundations of mindfulness. So mindfulness of breathing is more deep and profound. Mindfulness of four foundations of mindfulness has more detail. Details are spelled out in mindfulness, four foundations of mindfulness. In Anapannasati, details are implied. This is such implied detail. Complete in the body as body. Ardent. That means he must be very, very devoted, diligent to overcome all defilements. Ardent. Fully aware. Not partially aware, but fully, completely, totally aware. And fully mindful. Also having put away covetousness and grief for the world. This covetousness is excessive desire for somebody else's property. And out of that grief arises for the world. What is this world? This world is not external world, but actually the internal, that means our mind and body is the world. Sorrow or grief arises in that world. So with this preparation, he practices mindfulness. When he practices mindfulness on that occasion, unremitting mindfulness is established in him. He doesn't budge to anything. He doesn't, step back for 1 minute, 1 second, 1 inch. Goes forward, practicing unremitting mindfulness. On whatever occasion unremitting mindfulness is established in a bhikkhu, on that occasion, the mindfulness enlightenment factor is aroused in him and develops it, and by development it comes to fulfillment in him. Now this is how 7 factors of enlightenment arouse or come into existence from mindfulness of breathing. So mindfulness of breathing is not such a casual or simple thing, but it ends up in practicing 7 factors of enlightenment. We discussed this earlier in our discourses, and now we come to understanding how 7 factors of enlightenment arise from mindfulness of breathing. Now, what does he do to arouse mindfulness of enlightenment factor? Is he practice first tetrad. What is the first tetrad? Digang va sasanto digang asati mita pajanati. Digang va pasasanto. That means when he takes long inhaling, he becomes aware of long inhaling. When he exhale, long exhaling, he becomes aware of long exhaling. Then if there is short inhaling, he becomes mindful of short inhaling, and he becomes mindful of short exhaling. Then he becomes mindful of the entire breath body. Being mindful of entire breath body, he inhale. Being mindful of entire breath body, he exhale. And then when he follows these steps, these three pair steps, last pair arises automatically, naturally. That means his mind, breath, body relaxes. So with awareness of relaxing, he breathes in, and with the awareness relaxing, he breathes out. When he does that, he practices mindfulness of the body. And when he practices mindfulness of the body in this way, he also practices at the same time enlightenment factor of mindfulness. On that occasion, the mindfulness enlightenment factor is aroused in him, and he develops it. So when you practice first tetrad, you practice mindfulness of enlightenment factor. Enlightenment factor, mindfulness. Then you go to the second, that is mindfulness of investigation. And I said I don't repeat Pali in order to save time. Let us go to its English translation. Investigation factor of enlightenment. Abiding thus mindful, he investigates and examines that state with wisdom and embarks upon a full inquiry into it. On whatever occasion abiding thus mindful, a bhikkhu investigates and examines that state with wisdom and embarks upon a full inquiry into it. On that occasion, the investigation factor of mindfulness, investigation factor of enlightenment factor is aroused in him. Now, in the first tetrad, he arouses mindfulness, and then he investigates that mindfulness. How did he get that mindfulness? That is called investigates and examines that state with wisdom and embarks upon a full inquiry into it. Into it means into mindfulness. He arouses mindfulness, and then he examines it, he investigates it. How does he investigate? What does he investigate? He investigates by asking questions. He investigates the way how he got mindfulness by following the first tetrad. That means he saw rising, falling, appearing, disappearing, inhaling, exhaling. All these are factors of mindfulness. All these are factors of wisdom. See, state with wisdom. How we define wisdom here? Udayabbe jnana. Jnana means knowledge or wisdom. This wisdom arises from seeing rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling. What is this rising and falling. Rising and falling is the nature of existence. Something arises and that thing falls. Something arises and that is then it falls. Rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling. So in this wisdom, you see rising and falling of everything. We discussed this. What is rising and falling? 5 aggregates: form, feeling, perception, volitional formations and consciousness, always rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling. And that is what he see, and that is how he saw that his mindfulness developed. And that is his investigation. He first asked, how did I get mindfulness? I investigated. What did I investigate? 5 aggregates. What do I see when I investigate? Rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling, of every fraction of every part of the 5 aggregates in every moment, every nanosecond, they are rising and falling all the time. So he saw this with wisdom and mindfulness. And then he aroused his investigation factor of enlightenment. What did he do? He first practiced the first tetrad ardently, diligently, mindfully, paying total attention to that particular tetrad, only first tetrad. First tetrad is the mindfulness of the body of 4 foundations of mindfulness. At the very beginning I mentioned when we practice mindfulness of breathing, we develop 4 foundations of mindfulness and 7 factors of enlightenment and liberation and wisdom. And Buddha wanted to show how it happens. And that is why he repeated the same thing for mindfulness, what we call investigation factor of enlightenment. Then, what is happening then? I want to avoid reading Pali. What it means in English, energy enlightenment factor rises. So, in one who investigates and examines that state with wisdom, remember that state means the state of mindfulness, with wisdom, and embarks upon a full inquiry into it, into what? Mindfulness factor. So when we embark full inquiry into it, tireless energy is aroused, because more he investigates, new things arise, and more investigate, more new things arise. More he investigates, more new things arises. That gives him more energy, more and more energy, tireless energy. Tireless energy. He doesn't feel fatigue, he doesn't feel tired, he doesn't feel sleepy, because he sees something always new aroused. On whatever occasion tireless energy is aroused in a bhikkhu, who investigate and examine that state with wisdom and embarks upon a full inquiry into it, on that occasion the energy enlightenment factor is aroused in him and he develops it. When energy factor arises, energy, remember there are 4 steps of energy. One is called Padhana. 4 steps. First is is called effort or energy. We call it effort in some places, and energy also is the same. Prevention, it makes energy or effort to prevent. Second, overcoming. Third, arousing. Fourth, developing. These are the four steps of energy. When that energy, when he investigates, this energy arises in him. What is that becomes? Energy enlightenment factor. This factor is not just ordinary factor, it is energy enlightenment factor. So this is why it is mentioned in the Noble Eightfold Path as energy or Bhavana. What do you call right effort. Okay? Then right effort or energy factor arouse in him, then he has energy factor, then piety. You see, rapture, enlightenment factor arises. In one who has aroused energy, unworldly rapture arises. On whatever occasion unworldly rapture arises in a bhikkhu who has aroused energy, on that occasion the rapture enlightenment factor is aroused in him and he develops it, and by development it comes to fulfillment. Now, rapture or piety this is called Niramisa piety. Niramisa. There are two kinds of piety, Samisa piety, Niramisa piety. Samisa piety is worldly rapture. Worldly rapture is when you gain something to please your senses, some eating, some seeing object, people, animals, scenes, and so forth and so on. Rapture arises in you. Or hearing something, tasting something, and touching something, thinking something, all related to material things. That is called worldly rapture. The rapture arises from all these things is called world. Now, this is called unworldly rapture. This rapture is not related to anything worldly. Why is that? Here we practice letting go. Or this has nothing to do with the worldly object. This is a mental state. We let go of our greed, hatred, delusion, jealousy, fear, and so on. And as a result of that, as we mentioned earlier, making effort to overcome such unwholesome mental state, and so forth, make fourfold effort, as I mentioned earlier, unworldly rapture arises. The mind becomes more and more relaxed, relieved, peaceful, calm, and then rapture arises. So rapture enlightenment factor arises in him. And then he goes to next step. Next step is Passadi, means tranquility. You may remember I mentioned several times rapture and energy leads to rapture. energy is not some kind of physical energy. The strength, you have weightlifting, running, swimming, jumping up and down. You need energy for that. This is not that kind of energy. That energy is calming. That energy is to overcome defilements. Then rapture rises by being successful in overcoming defilements. Rapture rises. That rapture, Buddha said, in one who is rapturous, the body and the mind become tranquil. Body and mind become tranquil. We don't tranquilize. So we have to remember passaddhi is tranquility, which we don't arouse artificially. Like tranquilizer, people take tranquilizer when they are upset. Sometimes when people have problems, I think doctors prescribe tranquilizers to overcome hypertension, hyperactive, tranquil. This is not that kind of thing. This tranquility arises from within yourself through the process of purification of mind. So you arouse your tranquility, and now you are rapturous, and that rapture is the body and the mind become tranquil. Because of that rapture, both body and mind become tranquil. Now see, all this happened with mindfulness, investigation, energy, joy or rapture. Now tranquility arises. On whatever occasion the body and mind become tranquil in a bhikkhu who is rapturous, on that occasion the tranquility enlightenment factor is aroused in him, and he develops it, and by development it comes to fulfillment in him. Now we are still in the first tetrad. That is mindfulness of we can put it in 4 foundations of mindfulness framework. In that first mindfulness step is the mindfulness of the body. Now we are on that. So the first tetrad deals with the mindfulness of the body. And from that, how Buddha shows how 7 factors of enlightenment arises. And then next is samadhi. Samadhi means concentration. Let us see what happens there. In one whose body is tranquil and who feels pleasure, the mind becomes concentrated. On whatever occasion the mind becomes concentrated in a bhikkhu whose body is tranquil and who feels pleasure, on that occasion the concentration enlightenment factor is aroused in him, and he develops it, and by development it comes to fulfillment. Now I want to mention at least here, this applies to all previous passages. Now enlightenment factor fulfillment, complete. We are talking about enlightenment. Enlightenment is fulfilled here. Is it? By development it comes to fulfillment. So what happened when the mind and body are tranquil, and he has a pleasure, and the mind becomes concentrated. When the body and mind are tranquil and he feels pleasure, then concentration arises. Concentration. On whatever occasion the mind becomes concentrated, at that moment, in a bhikkhu whose body is tranquil and who feels pleasure, on that occasion, the concentration enlightenment factor is aroused in him. Now, this is how concentration arises. You cannot force concentration. You cannot make it artificial. You cannot. Sometimes people who don't know the whole process, they think if you open your mouth and show your teeth and make artificial smile and look around and you gain pleasure and concert. That is completely out of Buddhist teaching, artificial, fakey, not real. This is how real concentration arises. There is a process, mental state. So we have to learn the way to gain concentration in this way. Now, next is after concentration, what we have, equanimity, upekha. Okay. Equanimity enlightenment factor. He closely looks on with equanimity at the mind, thus concentrated. On whatever occasion a bhikkhu closely looks on with equanimity at the mind, thus concentrated, on that occasion, the equanimity enlightenment factor is aroused in him, and he develops it, and by development it comes to fulfillment in him. Now, he closely looks on with equanimity. And now, he gains concentration, and concentration becomes very, very clear and pure, and mindfulness is clear and pure, and then in that concentrated mindful state, how equanimity arises. Because there is no anything in him, anywhere, to make him excited. Everything, without any exception, is impermanent. That is the key. Whether they are past, present, future, internal, external, far or near, low or high, whatever, anything, body, feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, anything, these are called the things. All of them, Atita, Nagata, Pachupanang, Ajatanga, Bahidad, like that. 11 ways you look at it. Past, present, future, internal, external, gross or subtle, far or near, and high or low. All this, how subtle it is, all of them always changing, and therefore he closely looks on with equanimity at the mind, thus concentrated. So the mind gains concentration, and when it gains concentration, that concentrated mind sees things as they really are, as Buddha mentioned in many, many places. Samahitam chittam yatah bhutam pajanati. When the mind is concentrated, this is how equanimity arises from concentrated mind. When you gain concentration, you see the subtlest changes taking place all the time in everything in your body or even outside, internal, external. Whatever in the universe is rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling all the time. And therefore, the mind becomes equanimous, looks on with equanimity at the mind thus concentrated. The person looks at the mind that concentrated. Because in concentrated mind, all these things becomes very, very clear. At that time, equanimity enlightenment factor is aroused in him, and he develops it and cultivated it. Now, I want to end this very quickly today because we have to. Then the last part, true knowledge and deliverance, Vijja Vimutti. Vijja Vimutti. Here a bhikkhu develops the mindfulness enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion and cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. When we take this part, we apply this to everything else. How knowledge and deliverance arise? This is called developed mindfulness enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion. In Pali it is called Viveka-nisitang, Viraga-nisitang, Nirodha-nisitang, Vassagga-parinami, relinquishment, and resulting in ripening in relinquishment. So the mindfulness he develops, mindfulness factor of enlightenment, he develops with the support of seclusion. Seclusion as physical seclusion, called kaya viveka, mental seclusion, then upadiveka, seclusion from attachment, clinging, then seclusion from freedom from defilements, and then he sees when he is secluded, dispassion, viraga. Raga is clinging, passionate. Viraga means dispassionate or dispassion. Then nirodha, cessation, and ripening in relinquishment, letting go, relinquish. This is enlightenment factor, mindfulness factor of enlightenment. Similarly, he develops the investigation state of state enlightenment factor with the same qualities. What are they? Viveka-nisita, Viraga-nisita, Nirodha-nisita, Vassagga-parinami. Similarly, energy factor of enlightenment, rapture factor of enlightenment, tranquility factor of enlightenment, concentration factor of enlightenment, and equanimity factor of enlightenment, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, cessation, and resulting in ripening in relinquishment. Now, this is then Buddha concluded, because that is how the 7 enlightenment factors developed and cultivated fulfills true knowledge and deliverance. True knowledge and deliverance is full enlightenment. True knowledge means true knowledge of seeing things as they really are means impermanent, unsatisfactory and selfless. And deliverance. Then mind becomes totally, completely free. This is enlightenment. Now, we dealt with the first tetrad. When you practice first tetrad in the way we described earlier, this is the result. When you practice the second tetrad, which is mindfulness of feeling, you have the same thing. When you practice the third tetrad, that is mindfulness, what you call the mindfulness of mind. When you practice the fourth tetrad, that is mindfulness of Dhamma or mind objects, you have the same thing. So you have 4 occasions, 4 chances to practice 7 factors of enlightenment. You may ask, why should we have 4 steps, 4 tetrads, and 4 times? Why should we practice 7 factors of enlightenment 4 times? Friends, if you understand the first tetrad fully, well, completely, perfectly, you develop these 7 factors of enlightenment. After that, everything else naturally merge with it. We don't have to make another separate practice for gaining 7 factors of enlightenment 3 more times. Once you attain it, everything is merged with that. And therefore, friends, this mindfulness of breathing discourse is very, very complete, perfect, wonderful discourse. With this, I want to end this session today, and we took little longer time in order to finish it. So, next week we will start with something else. For now, either you memorize this or you download from YouTube later on. Okay? Then you can remember all these things in more detail. Okay. Now, let me go to the, what is that? Metta. Doesn't go.
Are you looking for Zoom? Are you trying to get back to Zoom?
Okay. Then we see. Okay.
One moment, Bhante, we need to share again.
Okay, let us begin with our meditation. We have very short time for meditation, but even short time is worth doing. But even though we finish it on our part, our side, you continue meditation as long as you like. Let us begin with our metta discourse. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, or gross. Visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere, neither from anger nor ill will, should anyone wish harm to another, as a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hatred or resentment. Whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake, one should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desire for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. Now, instructions you already know, and let us do our practice. By means of this matter, may I never join with the foolish. May I join always with the wise until the time I attain Nibbana. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be, from the highest realm of existence to the world, to the lowest, with form and without form, with fear. May the okay, let me recite it because I could not get it on the first. By means of these meritorious deeds, may I never join with the foolish. May I join always with the wise, until the time I attain Nibbana. May the suffering from fear, free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be, from the highest realm of existence to the lowest. May all beings arisen in these realms, with form and without form, with perception and without perception, be released from all suffering and attain to perfect peace. Excellent, excellent, excellent. With this, friends, I want to end this today's session with my regular sharing metta that I do at the end of every session. May all those who are suffering in hospitals taken care of by very compassionate doctors, nurses and hospital staff, may they recover very quickly and return to normal life and continue their Dhamma practice and attain liberation. May those doctors, nurses and hospital staffs who are taking care of these patients also continue their wonderful service, risking their life and sacrificing their comfort. May they also continue their Dhamma practice and liberate from suffering, samsaric suffering, attain Nibbana. May all those who are grieving the death of their loved ones, may they be liberated from their grief and practice Dhamma and attain Nibbana. May all those who are in various troubled spots in the world, in war zones, in poverty-stricken area, discriminations, and so forth, all of them whose categories I have not mentioned, may all of them be free from fear, tension, anxiety, worry, and continue their Dhamma practice and attain liberation from samsaric suffering. May all of you who have been practicing, encouraging us to continue this Dhamma service, may all of you be well, happy and peaceful and liberate from samsaric suffering. And thank you for participation.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Bhante.
Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante. Good sadnai.
Thank you,
Sadhu,
Bhante.
Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May all be safe and happy.
Good, Sadhu.